Hey there guys, so yeah, let's talk about this upcoming fight in the middleweight division between Erislandy, Lara and Danny Garcia. So yeah, this fight's going to be taking place for the WBA middleweight title, I believe. But it's at a catch weight of 157 pounds. This fight has been in discussion for a very long time. I think I can remember this fight being in discussion for like 1 or 2 years. I think it was supposed to happen at some point last year, August, some date in August, and then it was supposed to happen in December, I believe. And yeah, it's actually quite surprising that the fight is actually signed, sealed and delivered. Because, after it fell apart last year, you sort of thought, maybe that's it. But yeah, it's actually here. It's going to be happening on the Canelo versus Berlanga undercard. So if you break this fight down, if you take both guys at their very best, at their prime, I would probably comfortably pick Erislandy Lara to win. I just think, Lara's more proven at a higher weight. He's fought 154 pounds, he's fought 160 pounds his whole career. Garcia's tended to fight in the lighter divisions. He was at 140 pounds for a long time, and then he was at welterweight for a long time. He's had one fight at 154 pounds against Jose Benavidez, and that was, 2 years ago, I think it was. Lara's the taller man, he's got a longer reach, and I just think Erislandy Lara, the way he fought at his prime, when he fought Canelo, he was probably at his prime. The way he fights, just constant movement in the ring, just how technically good he was, how sharp he was, and just how well he threw straight shots, like the straight left hand. I think he would probably give Danny Garcia fits. I think it would be very difficult for Danny Garcia to land anything, consequential. Lara at his prime, when he was, pretty much running around the ring, he was very hard to pin down and very hard to hit clean. And Danny Garcia is someone who is quite stationary. He's not someone who is very fluid on his feet or anything like that. He tends to be, a stationary target. And he's not the hardest to hit either, to be honest. His defense isn't very good. So I just think Lara will probably piece him up from the outside. I think you could give some rounds to Garcia just based on his aggression. Just because Lara was very negative at his prime. But I think, Erislandy Lara would win the fight. I think, he would be landing all the clean shots from the outside. I think, he'd be piecing Garcia up at times. I think he'd probably win the fight on points. But obviously, a lot has changed since both of these guys are at their prime. Erislandy Lara is 40 years old. Danny Garcia is 36. I'll probably say Danny Garcia has had the harder career. He's had more fights. He's got hit a lot more in those fights. He's had more difficult fights. More of them. But Lara's obviously 4 years older, and Father Time's going to catch up to him at some point. As it does with everyone. Crucially, and what makes this fight a lot more competitive than it would have been at his prime, with both guys at their prime, in my opinion, is Erislandy Lara, as he's got older, has had to change his style. If you watch, from say the Brian Castano fight to the his last fight against Michael Zarafa, Erislandy Lara has been holding his feet a lot more. Now he's had to adjust his style because he's getting older. His foot speed isn't what it once was. And he's not able to move around the ring for 12 rounds like he used to be able to. And yeah, in his recent fights, he's been holding his feet a lot more. You look at like the Spike O'Sullivan fight, for example. There were times in that fight where Lara was on the inside with Spike O'Sullivan, just trading with him. And even in the Castano fight, he held his feet a lot more in that fight. That was a draw, very close fight. And with Lara holding his feet a lot more, I think it gives Danny Garcia a lot more opportunity in this fight. Obviously, he's not going to have to pin down Lara like he would have at one point in time. As Lara is more there to be hit, I can see Danny Garcia being able to counter him, with his left hook and his right hand. And it definitely makes the fight a lot more interesting than it would have been at one point. So I still think there's a lot of advantages that Lara has in this fight. Obviously, I mentioned he was taller, he had a longer reach. He's a bit fresher probably, even though he is a bit older. Danny Garcia has been inactive for 2 years. He's not as experienced at the higher weights as Lara is. And even though Danny Garcia went 12 rounds in his last fight against Benavidez Jr., it didn't really tell us much about him. For most of that time in the fight, I know Benavidez was a lot bigger than Garcia, but Jose Benavidez is a bit weird. Like, he's one of these guys who gets in the ring and it's all bravado. Like, you'll just stand there like a punching bag, just letting you tee off on him, and then once you're done punching, he'd like stick his tongue out or just shout at you. And he's not even there to win, really. He's not there to score points. He's just there to he was just in that fight to just provoke Danny Garcia, just to shout at him, stick his tongue out. And I thought the majority decision was a joke. I thought Danny Garcia probably won 10 rounds in that fight. It was a very clear win, but Benavidez, there weren't many rounds where he really put on Danny Garcia. It wasn't a very tough fight for Garcia. Benavidez, he didn't really give it his all. He was just sort of posturing most of the time. And I still think Lara, he's got much better defense than Danny Garcia. I think in this fight, Lara's going to be the one landing more, the cleaner shots more consistently. Just based on the differences in defense, Lara's very good at taking the sting out of shots. He's very good at blocking shots. Garcia is someone who's a bit more face first. He tends to take more shots on the chin. He tends to take more shots cleaner. And I think Lara's proven a lot more in his recent fights, where he is at. Against Michael Zarafa, he looked very sharp. And even he has been a bit inactive. I mean, I think the Michael Zarafa fight was almost 2 years after the Spike O'Sullivan fight. But I mean, at least we have that Michael Zarafa fight to prove to us that Erislandy Lara still got it, that he's still sharp, that he's kept himself in shape, that he's still, the force he once was. And I think with his change in style, this fight will probably be a lot closer than it once was. I think Garcia is definitely going to have his moments in this fight. I can see him being able to counter Lara, with his left hook and his right hand. And I think he'll land some good shots in this fight. I think he'll win his fair share of rounds. But if I'm honest, I think the main difference in this fight will probably be the difference in reach and the difference in defense. I think Lara will be able to land his jab and his left hand a lot more consistently just because of his longer reach. I think he'll be able to block more of Garcia's shots than Garcia is of his. I think they'll end up with him landing the cleaner shots. And I think Erislandy Lara probably takes this fight on points. I think it'll be a very competitive fight, but I think I would probably favour Lara to win on points. I still think a Danny Garcia win is very possible. As I've mentioned, I think this fight is a lot more competitive than it once was. And Lara can get hurt. I mean, we've seen Erislandy Lara get hurt numerous times in his career before. And Danny Garcia can really crack with that left hook. And if he counters him, then he doesn't see it coming, then he can definitely hurt Erislandy Lara. I think he's got a puncher's chance in this fight. I think he can knock Lara out. I don't see Lara knocking Danny Garcia out. Danny Garcia's got like an all-time great chin. So I don't see Lara being able to knock him out. But if I'm honest, I think Lara will probably have to survive a scare, 1 or 2 times in this fight. I think he'll be able to come through it. I think 8-4, 7-5 type decision for Erislandy Lara. I think it'll be a fairly close fight. I can see Garcia winning, but I think it's more likely that Lara wins just because of his sharper, straighter shots. I think his shots are a bit more crisp. I think they're a bit faster. They'll get to the target quicker. He's someone who Lara is definitely a lot more based on point scoring. Garcia is someone who tends to really load up in his fights when he's fighting someone who, he is a bit slicker. When you fight someone like Benavidez who you can just outbox easily, then you'll do that. But when he's fighting Lara, who he can't probably outbox, then he's probably going to have to load up. And I think Erislandy Lara will win most of the rounds just based on that. I think he'll outwork him. I think he'll land the cleaner shots in enough of the rounds to take the rounds. I think it's like that Erislandy Lara wins this fight. I think, 7-5, 8-4 type decision. I think it'll be a close fight, but I think Erislandy Lara will be the clear winner. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. You never know, maybe Father Time will catch up to Lara, after his last fight. Maybe he's completely regressed in that time, but I doubt it. And yeah, I think Garcia's got a puncher's chance, but I think Lara will win. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comments, and yeah, thanks for watching, and God bless.